Well, hello everyone. Um, Welcome to our session on why attend a Search Associates Fair today. And we're very happy that you're joining us from around the world, whether it's live or in a recording later. Um, we're we're very happy that you're here to learn a little bit more about search fairs. And we know you wouldn't be listening in if you weren't interested or curious about attending. So, whether you're already an active search candidate or whether you are a new applicant who's just getting started with search, we hope this session will be very helpful to you. And today we just hope to answer some of your key questions about what to expect at an in-person fair event, why you should consider attending an in-person event if possible, and we'll also cover some common and frequently asked questions that we receive from candidates about our fairs. So I just want to welcome you today. This session is being hosted by Search West Coast Latin America and our team. And today it'll be me, Jennifer 𝐉𝐞𝐧, the Associate for Latin America, and the previous organizer of the Latin American Fair and also the San Francisco Fair, both of which are not on the calendar this year, but we do know a lot about fairs and we're happy to share with you. And also joining us is our colleague, Jim Albers, another seasoned international educator who assists us with marketing and has attended and supported at many of our international fairs on the West Coast. So we will be your hosts today and sharing a little bit about fairs. So welcome.
Welcome.
So let's start off a little bit with what is a search fair? And for many of you, maybe you have not attended a fair as part of your recruiting in the past. Maybe you only have interviewed or applied online. And that's wonderful too. A lot of hiring happens that way. But you're obviously here because you want to know more about fairs. So, what is a search fair? Well, it is an invitation-based event with member international schools. So Search has 750 member schools around the world. They are invited to different fairs depending on region and curriculum. And so it varies every year who attends, but we invite active members, schools, as well as active candidates to come together on an event and meet each other and have interviews and hopefully find a good fit for the openings that exist. It's a very busy weekend, and I use the term weekend loosely. It could be a 2-day event. Many of our fairs are just Saturday and Sunday, or if you're in the Middle East, it might be Thursday, Friday. And some of our larger fairs actually go Friday to Monday and are a little bit longer based on the number of schools and candidates who participate. It's a structured weekend, and I want to be clear about that piece because many people might think maybe it's just a casual thing. I can drop in and wander around and visit some tables and pick up brochures. That is not what you will find at a search fair. It's very structured. There is a schedule, and every fair has some commonalities, like a very formal interview sign-up session, and it's set up for serious job seekers to have opportunities to have interviews with schools and hopefully find their match. It's also a wonderful opportunity to have on-site guidance from senior associates, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in another slide.
So this is an event in which you can make a number of connections. It really is all about networking, and that in person is so important. As you see, it's a time to meet the heads of schools, meet the principals, meet the HR people who are there in attendance. Sometimes there are also teachers or administrators along with those heads and those principals that are there to help answer questions. You're there to just make that in-person impression. And the one key thing here is the interview sign-up sessions that happen at these fairs. And so the very beginning of the fair, after the introductions, there is a time in which you go in and you meet and you sign up. And then from that point forward, it is a time in which interviews are scheduled and you then can attend presentations, which we'll get into, and things that are going on at, within the conference, and at the fair. But in a sense, it is a time in which interviews are scheduled then, and you begin the interviewing process. So it's really important to be there right at the beginning of the fair to just make those connections and be a part of that interview process to get signed up and get those interviews scheduled. And then there's a part in which the fair has this portal, right? And so the search portal is a comprehensive portal that basically lists, all the schools that are there, the vacancies, and with that portal, you will have your interviews scheduled and signed up. So there is a lot going on. It is really busy, and it is so important to just be there in person, especially in the beginning, to just get those interview signups, and from there, just start making those connections.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
So one of the side benefits, I guess, and extras that comes with attending an in-person fair is you have an opportunity to get advice in person and ask questions and get guidance from other senior associates and consultants who are on hand. And so if you're already a search active candidate, you have an assigned associate, whether it's me, whether it's Bob Imholt, whether it's Jez Hayden, whether it's Nick Kendall, whether it's xiaoheng, your associates might be all over the world. We don't all attend every fair, but many of us attend multiple fairs so that we can be on hand to provide guidance to you and to all the candidates who show up. So if you go to a fair and your own associate isn't there, that's okay. You will have a team of people on hand who can ask questions to. You can ask about if they know about life in that country, or you can ask their advice if you have an offer or two and you're trying to make a decision, or you can say, would you look at this offer and tell me, like, are there questions I should be going back and asking of the school that offered this to me? It's very helpful to have a sounding board there, and sometimes you also meet other candidates who might be working at that school or in that country at your fair too. So it's a great way to get advice, to have people on hand, to be there for you as needed during the event. And that's a real perk. And for us, it's special too, because for many of us, our only interactions might be through emails with you, or the occasional Zoom call, or the occasional phone call. But to meet you in person, to see you, to know your personality, and for you to get to see who's on the other side of your emails and feel comfortable chatting with us, that's a real gift for us too, to get to know you. So that's one of the benefits of why you might attend.
So the search portal and access to getting all the information that you need while you're at the fair. If you are a registered search candidate, then you have experience using the dashboard and possibly even working with the portal if you've previously attended fairs. If you're coming in and you're newly registered, you're going to have a chance to access the dashboard and get a sense of how it all works and how you can find the information, and then the use of the portal. And you'll have time to kind of play around and use that. You can always ask questions too. Everybody's here to help you with terms of how do I figure out everything on the portal. But what you will see on this portal for the event is the current job openings, right? And the schools that are there that are registered for the fair. It allows you time to research and basically get a chance to learn more about the school, and the information is there on the portal about the school, looking at the curriculum, looking at age requirements, looking at the salary, looking at benefits, the size of the school too. I mean, there's so much information that is there in the school's profile. And then you also have information in terms of reaching out to those people that are the admin or the human resource people at the school. The recruiter information at the fair, there are Q&As and presentations that we'll get to here, but that is also there on the fair portal that gives you an idea of the times when presentations happen. And then again, just allowing you there to monitor everything going on for the event. And then when you schedule those interviews will be entered in. And so that information will also be there so you can see when your interview times are scheduled. So
Thank you, Jim.
lots,
And
yeah,
for those of you,
lots of stuff going on.
there's so much, but what's really nice is if you're familiar with the database, you're just seeing stuff you can search all 750 schools. The nice thing about the fair portal is if you're at a fair that, let's say they have 50 schools at that fair or 100 schools at that fair, then just those 50 schools and their openings will be visible to you in the portal. So you can really focus in on the schools and the profiles. It's like a miniaturized version of the database just for the fair in that moment, in that week before, during, and after the fair that you access. So it's a really helpful tool during the fair itself for sure.
And using it before and during and after is so important.
Absolutely.
Don't just
Absolutely.
forget about it. You gotta be like, I gotta keep looking at this. So yeah, there's a lot.
Absolutely. So, one of the other really special things about coming to an in-person fair, and something that even in the midst of it being a potentially like exciting, stressful, nerve-wracking roller coaster of emotion event for people, because it's a big deal, right? It's exciting. You're looking for a new job. It's an unknown. You're going to a big event. Can be a little bit overwhelming. It's really fun to network with a global community. So even if you've never been overseas before and you go, for example, to the Cambridge Fair, the Toronto Fair, and you're looking for your first international position, you will still meet candidates there from all parts of the US, Canada. Some will fly from as far away as Latin America or Asia just to attend a fair there. So you will meet people who are potentially already working overseas at different schools. And it's fun because you meet people who, like you, are probably adventurous, fun-loving, seeking a new professional challenge, looking for personal growth. And a lot of times we find those like-minded people that are going to hopefully be our teammates and our colleagues in our new schools. So that's really a fun way to meet people and make connections. And not only just amongst your peers, but when you're at the Q&A sessions, very often the fairs are held in either like a hotel where there's breakout room sessions or in a school where the classrooms are the Q&A sessions. And the person presenting about their school and their country, they might be the head of school, they might be the principal, they might be the head of HR, that might be a panel of all their people that are there to interview. And so those are usually smaller group sessions, maybe 25 to 50 people go to listen about that school. You can ask questions about life in the community and cultural questions and things like that during that time. So you also get a chance to interact outside of interview sign-up sessions with the people who work at that school to learn more. So that's a great way also to learn more, make connections, and find out about different places that could be your new home. So super fun. And this cute picture are two of our candidates that made friends at one of our San Francisco fairs. And um, I think they still keep in touch today. So that's kind of cool.
And then just segueing into presentations, one of the things about the fairs is that there are the interviews and the signups and everything that take place, but there's also presentations that happen. And so, as Jen was just mentioning a little bit as well about the schools being there and stuff and presenting, is, get there, take advantage of that. Sometimes interviews might be scheduled if you have them during that time, but get to the ones you can, especially if you're really interested in those schools. And sometimes schools that you don't know a lot about, but they're there and maybe they have a position open, for you as well. You're like, that I haven't really thought about that school. I'm going to go and sit in on this presentation. You know, take advantage of seeing the presentations that are there. Schools are there to present, and like Jen said, they're the head of schools or the principals that are there just doing Q&As. And the other piece then is a lot of times at our fairs, we have presentations that take place that are preparing you for if you were to take a job overseas, or how to better interview, what to know, now that you've accepted a job. So those, those are so important to just step into, get some information, and find out more about the benefits that the school has to offer or the information that's there at the presentations that help you in, thinking beyond, the interview. And now I'm going to take, a position or a job at a new school, which is going to be my new home, and how to get ready for that.
Absolutely. That's added value. So take full advantage of everything you can learn about the industry in one weekend. That's really helpful.
Yeah, overwhelming but amazing. So
Hmm. So preparing for a job fair, just like if you were preparing for any interview, you want to be putting your best foot forward, making that best impression, being your professional self during the course of that weekend. So just some things to know about in advance before you even get there is it's invitation based. So you have to be an active candidate in order to even request an invitation from your associate to attend a fair. So getting your profile ready now, if it isn't already active, is the first step. Getting vetted, becoming an active member so that you can attend one of our events. When you come to our events, regardless of what fair, we hope that you're coming with an open mind and flexibility and a positive attitude, keeping an open mind about where you might end up in this world. The more open you are, the greater the likelihood that you're going to find a good match for yourself. And right, you can see on there we have be ready to say yes. I think that is a key component we all need to think about. As I said earlier, a fair is a structured formal event, and its intended goal is recruitment. Schools and recruiters fly from around the world at great expense to come and meet quality candidates that Search is known for. They are there making serious offers, and they are hoping that the candidates who are engaged in this process are serious about finding their next adventure, finding that next job, and that they're ready to say yes. If you just want to learn about schools, you can do that on the database without going to a fair. If you are for serious about where you want to be and making a move for next year, and you're ready to say yes, and you're open to whether that's Egypt or Belgium or India or Cote d'Ivoire or Venezuela or wherever in this world you might land, you're going to have a more fun and better experience at a fair, keeping open to the possibilities that might pop up for you in places maybe you hadn't considered beforehand. So we just hope you come with an open mind and an open heart and see what comes your way in terms of possibilities during a fair. And I'm so sure this last one goes without saying, but a fair is an opportunity. It's a formal, semi-formal, let's say, event, but you are thinking about what would you wear to school if it was back to school night or parent-teacher conference night or something, a special occasion at school. You'd be dressed in your best, right? So professional attire is appropriate for this fair weekend because you will hopefully be having interviews during this weekend. You want to look your best. Also, because of the portal being online, you need to be able to access that portal during the weekend. So you need to have a smartphone or your laptop or a tablet, something that you can access that to check school profiles, check changes in schedules, monitor vacancies, all that stuff during the weekend. So you need to have that in your charger with you for sure. And another thing, it's also helpful to have a handful of copies of printed out resume front and back if that's something you feel called to do. You're not required to, but a lot of people like to bring them or their business card or something just as another thing to share with recruiters at the tables when they approach to talk about setting up an interview. Of course, your profile will, if you're active and you're invited to the fair, the schools can see your profile and they can see your resume online there. But it's not, sometimes nice just to have that hard copy with you. So we do encourage that as well.
And then kind of finally, the next steps here is one, if you're not an active candidate, and you're new to this, then completing, your search profile and activating it, so that you can be invited to the fair. And you'll go through the process of activating your profile, and the senior associates will be in contact with you, letting you know the process. And then once you are fully active, then your invitation to the fair and what fairs you want to attend, then choosing the right fair, and so probably Jen speak a little bit to this because it
Yeah.
really is important to reach out to your candidate
Absolutely.
to know which fair to be at. So yeah, go ahead.
Correct. So I want to touch on that because sometimes people aren't sure when they first get active on their profile. There's a place where you can kind of tick any fair that you might be interested in. Just because you've ticked a box that I want to go to Toronto, I want to go to Melbourne, I want to go to Bangkok, that doesn't mean you're going to get invitations automatically to those three fairs. So you've ticked an interest, but it's also important when you're active to reach out to your associate and request a particular fair. So what I will say is this, some fairs are better suited depending on the region you're living in. Maybe proximity is one thing. If it's something that's close and convenient that you can get to and travel to that fits with your schedule and budget, then that's a consideration of why you might want to go to that fair. But secondly, some fairs tend to be a better fit for a brand new candidate who's never been overseas versus a candidate who has already been overseas and worked in multiple international schools, because some fairs are very big, very competitive. Some of those big fairs might have a very specific requirement, like unless you already have IB experience, you're probably not going to be super competitive at this fair because this fair tends to host schools that run the IB curriculum, for example. So again, when in doubt, there's a very good section on the website and it is about the fairs and has information. You can click on each one and it'll talk about candidate eligibility or who's a good fit for this fair. So, if you live in the US, for example, or in Canada, for example, you're going to want to look at potentially going to Cambridge or Toronto. Those are great fairs for brand new candidates who haven't been overseas before. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go if you've been overseas. Of course, you can ask to go to those too if you've been overseas before. But those are great fairs for candidates looking to get their start. London, January, or Bangkok, for example, they're very large fairs. They tend to attract candidates who are international, have been international for a while. They're a little bit bigger. They're a little bit more competitive in terms of just the sheer volume of candidates they're vying for positions. It can be a little more overwhelming potentially if you're a brand new candidate. So if you don't know what might be the best fit for you, there are all fairs are going to have, their great qualities to them. They're going to have different schools going to them. So if you live near one of those fairs, maybe that's going in, or you really want to go to that region, then that might be a good fit for you. But always, when in doubt, ask your associate and they will give you solid advice about whether or not they feel that fair could be a good fit for you or not, and issue the invitation. So between now and when you go to a fair, though, you should always be actively monitoring your search dashboard. And it's October, it's middle October. You've probably started to see an uptick in vacancies and things coming out in your daily email updates. If you're seeing things now that match you, that you're excited about, that you want to apply for, by all means, start applying now. Start applying now. Don't wait until February and say, okay, I haven't applied yet. I guess I'll go to a fair. It's great to go to a fair. It's great to sign up to go to a fair. And that is a wonderful piece of your recruiting process. It's one more tool in your toolkit, if you will, of how you could find that job. But in the meantime, don't sit idly, like start applying to things of interest and see how things go. Off to the side here, you can see a really nice graphic that Jim put together. It shows the dates of the fairs and their locations. Of course, this is available and much more information about each one on the search website, and you should explore that if that's something that you want. Also, if you have a question about a fair or the invitation for a fair, reach out to your own associate first because they will be the one issuing the fair, even if they are not the fair organizer. So rather than bombard the organizer of the fair with questions if you're not their candidate, ask your own associate first, and they can issue an invitation to any of the fairs on there, even if they're not the organizer of that fair. So I think one of the things we'll
Sure.
do is we have some questions that have come in just this week through email. And if candidates are asking these questions, maybe some of these same questions might be yours. So I have them off to the side in the chat if you can see those. And I think we'll just we'll cover some of these quickly right now because I think these are ones that sometimes get asked and you might, be wondering this yourself. So if you are a teacher who has children, I have had the question, I think twice this week already, like, can children attend a fair with me? Um, First of all, my own personal experience as a parent who also recruited is if you have an option for childcare, if you have a caregiver, a grandparent, a friend, or someone else that can look after your kiddos during the fair weekend, I mean, obviously that would be optimal because it is busy, it's chaotic. It could be you'll probably be under some stress just because of the busyness of the weekend. It's not necessarily easy to have children in tow with you. Secondly, some fairs are just it's too much to have a child with you there. And if in doubt, you should ask the fair organizer. Some fairs have in the past, I don't know about recently, some fairs have had like on-site like daycare situations in the hotel that were options. But again, always ask if you're in doubt, because that's something that it could probably be a distraction and a stressor potentially for you if your goal is finding that job because interviewing, balancing kiddos, that could be tricky. Um, Second question we had this week is what if only one half of a couple attends a fair? So, for example, you and your teaching partner maybe you can't afford to both go, or maybe one of the two of you can't get the time off of work because you're at different schools right now, and maybe one school won't let you off. And it's always best if you both can go. However, if only one of you can go, that's something that you'll have to navigate on site. Like, can you have that fair recruiter also potentially follow up and have a Zoom interview with your partner? That's a big question mark because you're dealing with different time zones. You're dealing with very busy, very tight schedules. It's not ideal, but I have had candidates do that before. And, you have to do what works best for you, honestly. Um,
FaceTime stream, that's
yeah,
not the best, but yeah. And if they're
yeah.
not, a teaching partner, they're just a spouse who will just be accompanying, that's another decision too. So
Yeah, and that's question number three. Some of our teachers have a partner or spouse that is not a teacher. So should they come along with them? We always say if they can, then yes, absolutely. It's a window into this world. You're learning about the international market. They will too. Then you can sign them up to come as your guest, and they can go to the Q&As and the presentations with you. Some schools may or may not want them in the interview with you, but if this person's going to make a life-changing move around the world with you and be living in a new country, in a new place, they'll want to know, what is your partner going to do while you're teaching? Do they have a business they can run online? Are they studying online? Are they going to be okay being at home while you're working? Will that work for your family? So I think they want to know sometimes too, will this person maybe want to volunteer at school, or is this person potentially interested in coaching or subbing on occasion? They might have opportunities that they can share that could be potentially ways for your partner to integrate in the community. So it's helpful for that person to also go along and know what they're saying yes to. So I encourage that, and I think most fair organizers would. Um, Another question that comes up often is, are offers made during the fair event? It depends. Yes, they do sometimes happen during a fair event, especially if maybe you've been talking to a school before a fair and then you meet at the fair and you have a second interview or a third interview at the fair. But again, a lot of times things happen that get the wheels in motion for an offer at a fair, but it might not be finalized at the fair. It might trickle out in the week or two after because sometimes schools interview you. They might even interview a couple times. They might think you're amazing, but they're not necessarily going to offer if they haven't been able to reach your references yet. So they're checking references, or maybe their own school protocol says you have to interview with somebody else at the home site, on over Zoom before they can make the offer. So the answer is yes, sometimes people do get offers during that weekend, but most often they start trickling out in the week after and in the days after as things happen. So it is possible.
That's great.
Um, what happens if I accept an offer at the fair? If you accept an offer at the fair, you want to immediately tell the fair organizer, tell your associate. Once you accept an offer, your word is your bond. You sign a letter of intent. You've even verbally said, I accept this offer. Yes, I'm so excited to go to such and such school. And then you let us know you close your search account because once you've said yes, you do not carry on interviewing with other schools. That's the end. Once you've said yes to a school, that deal is done. So you want to let us know, and we'll congratulate you, and we will close up your account and help you create we'll create a placement note that you've been hired and move you to hired status. Um, what if I register for a fair, but I get an offer and accept it before the fair starts? This sometimes happens. Maybe you'll get an offer in December and you were planning to go to a January fair. Again, if you accept an offer, then you let your associate know and you let the fair organizer know. And of course, then you cancel your registration at the fair. That's good. It opens up a spot for someone else to attend potentially. And also, once you've said yes, you're not continuing to shop. You're closing your account and you are then going to let your associate know and you're going to move to hired status. You don't need to attend the fair once you accept a position, if indeed that happens before the fair starts. Will I know all of the schools and vacancies that'll be listed at a fair? We hope that everybody who has signed up is going to attend the fair. It does happen that schools add and drop right up until the event. It also happens that vacancies come on board and are taken down right up to the event. So no one can say with 100% certainty that everything you see a month before is going to be there at the fair. We don't know that. We encourage our schools and recruiters to keep their database and the portal as up to date as possible. And then when you get to the fair, you're going to see there will be what's in the portal, and schools also at sign up session have posters with all their openings as well listed. So you might get some surprises of things that you didn't know were going to be there, or you might get a surprise that something you thought was going to be there is not. And we can't control the way recruiting goes. It's a big puzzle with a lot of moving parts. So um,
Yes.
we do our best and we hope for the best as the fairs start. And the last one we
Oh, yeah,
had
lots of
was,
open.
what if I don't know anything about a school or country and they ask me to interview? What should I do? We would say, always take the interview. Have every conversation. If you've never heard of this school or this country, it happened to me personally at my first fair. Sometimes you have a surprise where a school asks you to interview, and maybe you've never even thought of them. They weren't on your radar. Have every conversation, and you never know. You might find the perfect fit, or you'll have enough information to rule it out as being a good fit, but you won't know if you don't have the conversation. So again, take every opportunity to learn. The school profile is helpful, schools' websites are helpful, but take every opportunity to learn more because it's a big world
It
and you
also
don't
just
know.
helps you hone your interviewing skills a little bit more. Every
Yes,
school has different interviewing questions, right? And every time you
exactly.
can sit in front of somebody and interview and be asked questions, it just helps you just professionally to improve a little bit more, maybe know a little bit more of what's coming. And maybe the school just blows you away. That's what happened with us as well. If
Mhm,
you're talking to, it's like, you know, India was not on our list. And boy,
mhm,
the head of school was amazing and learning more about the
mhm,
school. And it was like, we cannot refuse this offer. So, yeah,
mhm.
just you never
Yep.
know. So just
And
stay open, right? And
stay open-minded.
yeah,
Exactly. And have every conversation. In the end, like if at all possible, if it's feasible in your personal world with your schedule and your budget to attend a fair, it's highly encouraged. We would love to have our candidates come to our fairs and have these experiences of being able to maximize the recruiting, meet a lot of schools, have potentially many interviews in the course of one weekend. And as you know, if you've been active for a while, sometimes you feel like you're applying, you're applying, you're applying, you're applying, and you're waiting. You're hoping for that response and interview that is going to come online. And a lot of people are hired that way. But it's also really nice if it works for you to attend a fair because it can be a great experience. And so I hope that this session today, this last half an hour, was helpful, informative, and that you'll think about seriously about whether or not you'd like to attend a fair this year because there are 10 fairs in the lineup, and I'm sure there's something for everybody out there. So we would highly encourage you to take advantage of getting your profile active and attending a fair if that is possible for you. So again, we just want to thank you for attending. Thank you for being a search candidate. Thank you for potentially being a search candidate.
Right.
And again, if you have further questions about fairs, and what to do, reach out to your associate, and I know they would be happy to help you determine what's a good fit for you and be there to answer your questions as well. So, again, thank you for joining Jim and I today. And
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, we hope that this was helpful. And we wish you all the best this recruiting season. So, good luck and take care. And I'm going to stop this recording now. So, bye, guys. Ciao.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Best of luck.